Here I am in my Combo Breaker t-shirt, and today we're going to be hemming jeans. So there's a lot of different ways to hem jeans. These are the ones that I'm going to be hemming because I am a short person. So I'm going to actually be hemming them like this in a way that preserves the original hemline, because these Levi's, they're both Levi's actually, they've got a really nice, I don't know, is this a patina? Distressed look. I like the look of the original and I want to keep that. And you're able to do that with a fun little trick that I did with these jeans, where I tucked up the extra fabric, cut off a lot of excess if you have a lot of excess, stitch that down with a matching thread, and then you can still keep the original. Now, if you don't want to go to all this bother, there's a lot of ways to hem jeans. You could just cut it off. Just cut it off right where you want it, and then do a single stay stitch. I did one here in light blue that you can barely see, in a very tight, probably 1 or 2 length stitch, and then I did a more decorative golden stitch over the top. So you could do that, and it leaves a nice sort of rugged, beachy kind of look. It's good for capris or shorts or things like that. It's very casual. But if you want to have something that looks a little bit better, you can either do this, or you just cut the jeans about an inch longer than where you eventually want it to be finished, and then you fold it and fold it. I recommend serging first and then doing a double fold, or you could just serge once and do a single fold, and the serging, which looks like this, will keep it from unraveling. However, I really want to show you how to preserve the original denim cuff and how to deal with little fringes like this, because it takes me a while to get to it, but I will eventually fix my hems, and when I do, I've usually worn some little fringes into it. So I'll show you how to take care of that, how to preserve that original hem look for that pre-distressed jeans look, and we'll have some hemmed jeans at the end. Hey, how do I know where my jeans need to be hemmed? I like hemming them without shoes on first. What I do is I put my jeans on, I straighten out the legs on both sides, and then instead of bending over, which will tighten up the jeans, I just figure out where they hit, where the back of the heel sticks in. Now, I don't have my belt on, so these are hanging a little bit long, but right about there is where I would pin it. And then when I'm wearing shoes, the backs of my pants don't drag in the mud. Now, if I'm wearing high heels, like I never do, but if I were to be in high heels, I would want the shoes that I intend to wear with those slacks so that I could make the pants slightly longer, particularly in the back. So those would have a higher hem in the front and then go down in the back to accommodate the high heels and not make it look weird. However, I'm not a cowboy boot sort of person. That would be one instance where men would do that sort of thing. If you're a high heels person, you're going to want to wear the heels when you hem your pants. Otherwise, they're going to end up too short looking, and it's going to be weird. You don't want pants that are hanging out up here showing off all your stripy socks. You want them to cover to the tops of your shoes, which is why I like to the curve of the foot, because that seems to be the right size for me. Your shoes might differ, but that's what I like to do for pinning them. Okay, these jeans are safety pinned up right to where I need them to be, which looks like it is 4 inches shorter. Yeah, I told you, I am short, people. But this is very common. People will tend to roll up their cuffs, and they find a cuff that they like, that holds it pretty well, and that's where they want to hem it. So if you've just rolled up your cuff, wherever that bottom of the rolled cuff is, that's probably where you want to have the finish hem of your jeans. So just safety pin it, measure it, mark it. How do we mark it? Tailor's chalk. You could use just a regular white pencil if you don't happen to have Tailor's chalk. You can use just regular chalk, sidewalk chalk. You could even use a pencil or a ballpoint pen, but I like Taylor's chalk because it doesn't show up later. The pencil, particularly if it's a lighter colored pair of jeans, might show up, and definitely that ballpoint pen is going to leave a permanent mark on your jeans unless you do some serious stain control, and even then, likely to still have a mark. Now, what if you're doing white jeans? Well, Taylor's chalk comes in a variety of colors, mostly white, but also in blue and in a red color. So if the white isn't showing up because your pants are white or a very, very light color blue, you can always switch your Taylor's chalk to another color. Now, again, this was 4 inches. So 4 inches is where I need to remove material. However, I want to keep this little section right here. I'm going to stitch it down and then have it there. Well, if I just go the 4 inches, this will still be about a ½ inch too long. So it's not just 4 inches that I'm marking at, it's 4 1/2 inch. Now, this measurement of whatever the original cuff was, that hem measurement is going to differ pants by pants. Some have it deep, some have it very, very skinny, but whatever that is, you just figure it out and then you add it on to where you're marking. So I know I've got to do it at now 4 1/2, so I look, I've got 4 1/2, mark 4 1/2, mark. And if you remember your geometry teacher's lessons way back in, what was that, high school, middle school, something school? 2 lines, 2 dots will make a line, but I like to have a third one just in case, because if all 3 of these line up really nicely, that's probably good. Now this middle one wasn't quite there, but that's just because this got a little bit off. So there we go. There, got a little bit off in my marking, but that's pretty good right there. Okay, flip to the other side, repeat, and then repeat with the other pant. Now, I didn't do the pinning for these cuffs, but I can see on this one there's a little bit of fringe, but on this leg there's even more. There could be 2 causes for this. One, when they mass manufactured this pair of Levi's, one leg was physically sewn slightly longer than the other. Happens all the time. These things are mass produced. A whole bunch of right legs are made. A whole bunch of left legs are made. Left, right, yeah. And then they get all stitched together. And sometimes there's some variations even in the same set of pants. There's also another possibility. Human beings are not symmetrical. We're close to symmetrical, but we're not perfectly symmetrical. So it could be that this leg is just slightly shorter than this leg, and therefore this pant leg hangs down a little bit more than this one because this leg is shorter. If that's the case, I can make this one just a smidge higher than this one, and I think I will do that just to kind of even things out. Now, there are people who absolutely know where their asymmetry is. They've got a scoliosis, they have physically one arm that's shorter than the other one, they've got one leg that's shorter than the other, and they wear a little lift in their heel. They know what's going on. So if you're sewing for somebody like that, they will tell you when that happens. But if you're sewing for yourself or a loved one or a not well-known stranger, and you see something like this where one is wearing more than the other, it's likely that the pants or maybe the person are slightly asymmetrical, but you can fix that by just hedging tiny little bit. Because this is worn off a bit, I've just got to kind of estimate where 4 1/2 would be and then go a little bit up from that. Again, because this leg seems to be either the pant cut slightly longer or the person who is wearing these pants has a slightly shorter left leg. get that line to meet up to the front side. There we go. Line all the way across. Now I'm ready to match up this light colored wear line to the light colored tailor's chalk line and stitch down. You can pin, but I kind of like matching and stitching instead of doing a bunch of pinning. If you are a pinning person, do it, but I find it's easier to kind of adjust on the fly if I don't pin. So I've put a blue in my bobbin and a blue in my top thread because I want it to match closely to the denim. I've gone a little bit lighter than I normally would. Usually I'd use more of a grayish blue than a light blue. However, I wanted this to show up on camera. So we're going to slip our jeans into our machine. And I usually start with the outside seam, which of the two seams is a little bit thinner. It's less thick. So we move it in here, match up the seam. Now you'll notice I am not pinning. I explained I like to kind of do things a little bit more by feel. Now I have my needle moved all the way over to the edge. I'm putting my presser foot down. I am matching up my light wear edge on the cuff with the light edge of my tailor's chalk mark. I'm setting it to a fairly long stitch. I've got it on a 4 stitch. That'll make this go faster. But the longer your stitch, the easier it is to pull out. I don't need this one so much for structure though, so we're just tacking this down. I match up my lines and I stitch, and I'm really just stitching into this groove right here so that that light mark and my tailor's chalk mark are right on top of each other. Needle down, match it up, and stitch away. Needle down, match it up, and stitch away. You're going to repeat this all the way around, but I want to get to this chunky part to show you something. Notice how there's extra pants. These pants slightly narrow. If you've got skinny jeans, you will find this, that if you're removing 4 or more inches, you're going to have a little bit of a problem with the material not matching up. So I'm going to slowly ease this material over, and I'm going to be stretching this top layer so that they do match up. Now, if you've got a drastic taper on your pants, you will not be able to use this technique because the cuff won't be as big as the part that you're hemming it up to. Therefore, you're just going to have to cut it off about 1 inch long, serge or double fold the end, and just call it good. You won't be able to keep whatever was on the hem. That's just life. Match up and stitch. Match up and stitch. All right, back stitch, and we are good. Repeat on the other leg. There. That's how it looks. Now, this seems to be a little bit bulky, but I'm going to hit it with an iron, and then I'm going to serge the excess away and then top stitch. What am I going to do about this fringe? Well, first, I'm just going to see what I can trim off here. Just give it a haircut. There we go. Haircut done. Now, I'm going to zigzag stitch over the top of all of this. I'm using a light thread because I want it to kind of blend with what is there. It's actually lighter than the denim blue that I would normally use for the repair. So I'm going to straight stitch, forward, back, and then switch over to, let's go with a length 1 stitch zigzag as wide as possible. And we're just going to kind of encapsulate all of this fringe in a zigzag stitch so that it won't continue. There we go. There it is. I'm gonna trim off my little whiskers here. There we go. And now those threads won't catch your toes when you stick your feet through your pants anymore. And because we're hemming these up, these pants will hopefully not drag on the ground anymore or get caught on the heel of the shoe anymore, so this wear won't happen ever again. I've brought back out my serger. I love my serger because it uses the same power cord as my regular sewing machine. I just unplug my sewing machine, push it back, pull my serger forward, boom, it's ready to go. Other people, they keep their sergers hidden in a closet somewhere because they can be intimidating. There's 2 needles going down. There's others that are underneath that kind of loop things around in a weird knitting action. It's kind of magic. I'm sure an engineer could just look at this and be like, oh yeah, I see how that works. I've looked at these things for years. I still don't exactly know how it works, but it does. So there's a scissor mechanism right here that's going to cut off the excess material. Now, I like having a serger because it keeps things from unraveling. So I'm going to do double the original cuff, but I can't just go at this because it'll cut and stitch and do all sorts of things. So I'm actually going to trim around with my scissors at that double the original cuff length before I start serging. This has a blade that goes scissor, scissor, scissor and cuts off the excess. If these were my pants, I would just cut as close to this initial stitching as possible so that when it's flipped in this direction, I would just have a very narrow top stitch that would be nearly invisible. However, seeing that I'm doing these for someone else, it is possible that when they get them back, they will say, I didn't want to see my original hem. I want that all gone. I wanted it to just be folded and top stitched, in which case I need to not trim off all that excess material. So what I do is, because I know this is where that hem needed to end, I need to go double the height of that up before I serge things off. Now, I can't just put this under the machine and cut it there. Yes, it'll do it, but I'll have this weirdness and then I won't know where I'm going at. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark with my tailor's chalk double the height of the original cuff. I'm going to have a chalk line there. I'm going to trim that off and then I'm going to go serge it. And then later on, if somebody says, hey, I don't like the way this is, turn it to just a regular fold under hem, I can still do that and I've got enough material to. If I serge it too close, I won't have enough material to put the hem where it needs to be. All right, I've got that excess trimmed off. So now I can serge. Now on this part of the seam, you'll see how I tried to flatten it out as much as possible. It naturally wants to fold to one side, but that I find is a little bit bulky. The hardest part to serge over is going to be this, because not only do we have 1 quadruple layer, but we have 4 quadruple layers, which means 8 layers of denim that the scissoring blades and those 2 sewing needles need to go through, which is why you want to make sure that you've changed the needles from being something delicate to being denim jean needles. All right, here we go. I'm going to start lifting up the foot, putting it down, and now I go around. Try to lay those flat. pinning is kind of dangerous with the serger because you've got those scissors. If a pin gets caught in those scissors, you will damage those blades, and those are not cheap to fix. Okay, here we come to the tough part. Toughy, toughy. Oh, gotta hand crank through this. There we go. And the worst is behind us. There we go. Now, I've got this little tail here, but it's caught up in the previous stitching, so I don't mind trimming that close. But this other tail, I'm going to catch with a crochet hook and tuck it into these other loops so that it won't unravel, because this is kind of a knitting action happening with the lower needles and the two going up and down, and I don't want this to unravel, so I'm going to tuck it in using crochet hook. But first, the other leg. Stitchy stitch away. Here we are back to the sewing machine. We're going to be doing some top stitching, so I've chosen a blue that is as close to the denim as I can. Now, sometimes you'll be like, oh, denim blue, I know what that looks like. No, you don't, because all jeans are different. I've had jeans from the very same brand that some have more green blue, and some have a more gray blue, and some have a more royal blue or a purpley blue. Yeah, you just need a whole bunch of different colors of blue to try and match your particular thing. Now, again, I'm not pinning, but I'm stretching the jeans so that I'm pulling on this stitch that I did before, and this will lay as flat as possible. Needle down, back stitch, and go. All right, here's the tricky part. Remember how we've got 8 layers of canvas here? Well, yeah. Sometimes sewing machines don't like to go through all these, and you'll end up skipping a few stitches here. It's all right if that happens. There are cool little presser feet additions to help you manage to get over this denim mountain. Back out. Can I hand do this? Oh, I'm just barely making it, hand cranking it. I'm making it, hand cranking it. Do 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 do. And now the machine goes chugga chugga choo. Almost to the end. Go back over where your stitches were before, back stitch a little bit, and done. Time to snip. All right, we are now finished with our hemming project. See how that blue stitch just blends in? Now, if anyone is within like that's about 3 inches of your pants cuff, they need to back off, give you some social distancing, because most of the time nobody's going to notice. But I just happen to really like the look of the original stitching by the manufacturer. I think that always makes the jeans look a little bit better, just because then the hem matches any of the pre-existing wear. I almost never get jeans brand new. I love the thrift stores. I can't go to them right now because of the whole COVID-19 stay home, stay safe, but I can at least hem my pants so that they're the right length for me and make it look like those pants were originally sewn for a short person like me. Thank you for joining me in this Sewing Basics project, where we learned how to hem some jeans so it looks like they were originally hemmed just your right length. I hope you had a fun time watching me and listening to me sing to you, and I hope this has also inspired you to go into your drawers and into your closet, look for those pants that have a little bit of wear on the cuff in the back, or the ones that you know you've been tripping on and just had to fold up or tuck into your socks or something like that. And I hope this gets you to get out there, get sewing, have a good time, and stay crafty.